it is, I mean, we're still in the midst of this nuclear deal. Yes. Iran still sponsoring terrorism throughout the region, and now this latest move. Why are they this belligerent? Why are they this enabled? Why aren't they intimidated?
I think the Iranians are definitely trying to flex their muscle, and they're trying to show us that they're not intimidated by a thing we do. And essentially, though, we've got 2 aircraft carriers and a naval warship sitting right off the coast. So right now, I'm sure the Navy and the Marines are looking over at the Iranians and probably using some expressive gestures with their fingers.
All right. By the way, guys, we do have a brand new panel in, and I did not introduce everyone. The audience knows Jesse Jane Duff. The audience better know Todd Stern, of course. Cheri Jacobus, first time with us. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
And my man, he was here last night. You going to be a regular?
Yeah, why not?
All right, there you go, Doug Burns.
Nice.
All right, now here we go, Todd. I think it's an interesting move, considering that so far from what I've seen, public opinion on this Iranian nuclear deal is really negatively high. People in America, A, they would like to know more about it, B, they're suspicious of it, and yet they're still flexing their muscles. What's the deal?
Well, the entire region is a powder keg. I mean, this is like smoking a cigarette in a fireworks factory over there. And you got the Obama administration. They seem to be the only people on the planet
selling the matches?
that don't get it. Yeah, I mean, they're the ones smoking. Look, this is a very, very dangerous situation. Now you have the Iranians saying that the Obama administration is not being honest about the plan that they've worked out, the deal they've worked out. You've got all these folks over there shouting in the streets, "Death to America." And again, the president of the White House here saying, "Oh, that's not a big deal. They're just making kind of like goo-goo eyes at us." So
Cheri, you know, you've been involved with politics for a very long period of time. Are we at the stage now with the Obama administration where public opinion completely does not matter? Whatever the president's trying to achieve, he will achieve it, or at least, you know, go for it, no matter what the public says.
We don't really know what he's trying to achieve, and I think.
I mean, but he must know.
He must know, but, you know, Dick Cheney finally said the one thing that everybody's thinking, is this guy trying to ruin America? Is he trying to hurt this country? He finally said it out loud, so now I guess we can all say it out loud and not be called crazy. Look, everything this president's been doing is he's giving the impression that we're weak. Therefore, we must be weak. The Iranians are not afraid of us. They don't respect us. They don't fear us at all. And one of the ways that you get peace, we found this through Reagan, people have to fear you and they have to respect you. You have to have those 2 things. We don't have that. And we're giving it away on these sanctions, so they're going to be further emboldened. They're going to have more money to be more aggressive in other areas.
And by the way, once these sanctions come off, I don't care what the president says, it's going to be real tough to put them back on with these Europeans out there who are chomping at the bit to get into Iran and sell them toothpaste and everything else and get the oil. They're going to be really loath to go the other way no matter how ignorant Iran gets. And I'm sure, Doug, with you, the arbiter of sanity is Dick Cheney. So when those comments were out, you said, right on, my man.
To some extent. I mean, look, there's a lot of legitimate criticisms about what went on with negotiating that deal, that we were, you know, operating from weakness, taking off the sanctions, as you said, which was a bad move. And I think the criticism is legitimate. The other problem with this president, I don't think it's unfair to say that he has his eye really on the ball of his legacy. What is he going to be doing when he leaves office? I know that may sound a little harsh, but I think it's true.
So, but what are you inferring, rather, that, you know, he was always a global president in his mind. Right. You go around the world, you give $250,000 speeches, you set up these foundations, and you heal the world that way.
Yeah, I mean, look.
Well, you make a couple billion.
My thinking is really colored because it's funny you read my mind. I just read the book, The $1.4 Billion Man. Seriously, I read another book, Presidential Perks Gone Royal. And the point you were making, even though it's ancillary, is if you read these books and you see the kind of money that is spent, I mean, and the lifestyle, it makes it, in my opinion, virtually impossible to interact with the real world.
I want to ask, though, now, this is becoming a dangerous game of chicken. You have these ships, they get close to each other, beyond the gestures, something happens, a spark.
Yes, that's all it's going to take.
Yeah, I mean, tell us about that.
Well, essentially right now, the U.S. is very much involved, and I don't think the American people realize how much. We're refueling the Saudis as they do their airstrikes. We are supporting the Saudi government, and we're sending weapons on over there. We have 12 Americans that are deeply engaged in the activities that the Saudis are doing to attack these Houthi rebels. Meanwhile, we've got these warships that are off of the coast that are literally side by side. So it's not going to take much for there to be an international incident, and like was said, it's a keg getting ready to blow up.
All right, guys, let's shift gears a little bit, because after a federal jury found Joe Karzai guilty on all 30 counts of the 2013 Boston Marathon bombing, that same jury now has to decide whether he deserves to live or die. And, well, what's even scarier is the thought that there could even be more terrorists like him hiding right here in America. We know a lot more. Almost every week we hear a story of homegrown terrorists or would-be terrorists right in our own backyard. So I'll go back to you on this, Jesse, start with you. The decision with Tsarnaev to live or die, could that actually spark even or hasten the development of homegrown terrorism? In other words, could there be people right now on the edge of their seats who have a lot of sympathy for this guy? He gets a death penalty, and then they take up the cause.
I don't think fear should control any decision that we make, because that's why we're exactly in the position we're in. We've been so soft-shoeing around in our foreign policy, and if we better set an example. Don't worry about him thinking he's going to go to paradise. Let him go to his version of paradise. We need to send a signal out that this isn't going to be tolerated on our shores. Men and women like myself go overseas to fight these wars. He brought it here. Let's show him. It's not.
Look, let me tell you what ought to happen. You got the Boston Globe out there saying that what happened there did not meet the level, did not rise to the level of a crime where you can be executed. Here's what I think they ought to do. They ought to strap a backpack with one of those pressure cookers to this guy, stick him out in the middle of the field and set a timer and watch him go off.
Well, that's one way to look at it. I said, but look, the thing is, it's not that we want to make an example, but they're trying to say that he's this kid and he's just following his brother. Nobody is buying that, and these jurors know that too, and they know that because it's a federal case that the death penalty is out there. And what we don't want, we don't have people there. You know, most people, if they're against the death penalty, they do it across the board for moral, ethical, religious reasons or whatever. Or there's this reasonable doubt. There is no doubt here. He did this. He is a grown man. There's no reason for him not to get the death penalty, unless it's, you know, they had these teenage girls that all liked him and they were sending him email messages.
I don't know, maybe after Rolling Stone tried to make him some sort of a rock star.
Right.
But back to Todd's point, boy, was I surprised to see that Boston Globe editorial. And I'll tell you why. It would be perfectly fine if they had couched it in terms of a general disagreement, you know, with the theory, penological theory of the death penalty. No. They said he was less involved. He was corrupted by his brother. I could not believe they put that in the editorial.
He was, of the 30 counts, 17 carried a death penalty. So that right there tells you, I mean, if anyone's qualified for the death penalty. But you're a very successful attorney. You know, his attorney, Susan Smith, has an amazing track record of keeping the most vile murderers in the world out of you know, off of death row.
I don't have a crystal ball, but I think she may have run out of her winning streak. No, in the sense that you're right. I mean, Ted Kaczynski, my God, it was terrible. You know, mailing bombs, you know, disfiguring people. And
well,
she
Susan Smith,
no, you're right. But I mean, in this particular case, I don't know, maybe I'm crazy. I just think he's the poster boy for this punishment. I'm sorry.
And guys, what, 49 states, they're looking at possible terrorists, you know, activity, 49 states, frightening stuff. I think we have to set an example here.
Elizabeth Warren also chimed in and said he shouldn't get the death penalty as well. And maybe it's something in the water, but could you imagine, I would like to hear the voices of regular Bostonians who don't have a platform, because I would be shocked if, despite the fact that in general they don't necessarily, you know, aren't for the death penalty on a normal case in that region.
He blew up an 8-year-old child.
Yes.
An 8-year-old child.
And he said it was against what the U.S. was doing to the Muslims overseas.
That's right.
And now it's like he's made it a political statement.
Did anyone hear what his mother said today?
No.
Oh, my God.
America's?
Yeah. His mom said, America is the terrorist, and everyone knows it.
Jeez.
My son is the best of the best. I embrace everyone, and thank you.
And they came here.
They came here on a tourist visa. Once they got here, then they claimed that, well, we're Chechens and we would get harmed if we go back home. We made them permanent citizens here. We gave him everything. He was going to university, and this is the repayment. Obviously, this starts at home. Todd, does this help us get around the idea that we can't be more forceful with respect to surveillance because you're called a racist and things like that? If someone would have singled out his family and said, we want to keep an eye on them.
Yeah, look, I never have gotten this whole profiling thing. Look, if you've got a certain demographic of the population that's committing a majority of the crimes, you got to go after those folks. You got to take a look at them. Otherwise, we're really not safe. And I think that's the big issue here. When they're pulling grandmothers and 4-year-olds out of the line at the airport to pat them down, that does not make us safer.
Right. And of course, the mosque that he attended, I think that has a long track record of people that either were kicked out of the country, even apparently even kicked out of the mosque